Hello boys, welcome back to another session of online biology video tutorials. This session is meant for class 11th biology students and this is for 9th July 2021. As all of us know, we have been discussing about chapter number 3, plant kingdom. And we said that the plant kingdom is being classified into 5 groups based on presence and absence of seeds. So basically, we said cryptogamy and phanerogamy. And we said cryptogams are the plants without seeds. And phanerogams are the plants having seeds. So under cryptogams, we included algae, bryophyta, and what we are going to study now, pteridophyta. Under phanerogams, we included gymnosperms and angiosperms. So in our previous session, we studied about algae, habitat, nature, classification, reproduction, as well as we studied about bryophytes on similar lines. Now in this session, we are going to study about pteridophytes. Basically, the moment as you hear the word bryophytes, I said you must remember that bryophytes are the amphibians of the plant kingdom. Similarly, when I say pteridophytes, you must remember that pteridophytes are the vascular plants. So first time vascular tissue has come into that, xylem and phloem. So they are the first vascular plants. You must remember that. So basically, many of in our houses, many of us grow a very colorful and beautiful plant called fern. Okay, so fern belongs to pteridophytes. Similarly, horsetail, these are the two plants very commonly grown as decorative, particularly as an interior decoration in the house. So where do you see these pteridophytes? They are found in cool, damp, shady places. Some flourish well in sandy as well as soil condition, sandy soil condition. Evolution-wise, they are the first land plants, first terrestrial plants to possess xylem and phloem. Just now I said vascular tissue. So the first land plants, pteridophytes. So in bryophytes, the dominant phase is the gametophyte, as we discussed. In pteridophytes, the dominant phase, that is main plant body, is sporophyte. You must remember this. Sporophyte. In pteridophytes, dominant phase is sporophyte. Sporophyte is a structure that bears sporangium, and the sporangia bear spores. So it is differentiated into two true root. Means since xylem and phloem is there, we are saying true root. We are not saying rhizoid or root-like. Similarly, true stem having xylem phloem. True leaves having xylem phloem in the leaves also. So these organs have well differentiated vascular tissues. The leaves in pteridophyta are small. So the small leaves are called microphyls. And like in selaginella, you can see the leaves, very small ones. And very large leaves will be there, like in ferns, as you are seeing, they are called macrophylls. So microphyls and macrophyls. Economic importance, what is the use of these pteridophytes for us? They are used for many medicinal purposes. Okay, they are used as soil blinders. Of course, we are seeing some of the photos here. Some ferns having medicinal value like rattlesnake fern, ostrich fern and bracken fern. And similarly, we are having some ornamental ferns like, as I said, the very common asparagus fern, then Dryopteris as well as Actinopteris. Particularly this asparagus is very commonly grown as ornamental plant. And then what about reproduction? The reproduction we said sporophytes. Sporophytes bear sporangia, plural, sporangium, singular. Look at that. So the sporangia are subtended by leaf-like appendages called sporophylls. Okay, here you can see the presence of sporophylls. So since it is bearing the sporangium, we call it sporophyte. The main plant body, we said dominant type is sporophyte. So we can see roots here, rhizome, young leaves, then sori, then megasporophyll, big leaves. Okay, and we are taking up this one leaf, and in the leaf we are seeing this sorus. We are further expanding that sorus, which is having sporangium. So the sporangium on maturity will have the spores. Spores get released. That's why we say sporophyte is dominant. In some cases, sporophylls form distinct compact structures called strobili or cones. So since they are cone-like structures, strobilis. Example, selaginella and equestrium. You can see the strobili. So the strobili is nothing but a distinct compact structure, means very clear structure. Okay, and who is forming that? The sporophylls. Sporangia produce spores, as I said just now, by undergoing meiosis from spore mother cell. Remember SMC. SMCs undergo meiosis and produce spores. The spores germinate to give inconspicuous, small, multicellular, free-living, mostly photosynthetic, thalloid gametophyte. Means sporophyte is giving rise to gametophyte. And this gametophyte is called prothallus. This is the typical characteristic of pteridophytes. Look at that, prothallus, heart-shaped it is. Very beautifully shaped, heart-shaped structure, right? And then, when we analyze this prothallus, we see presence of rhizoids, root-like structures, and then there is presence of antheridium, male reproductive organ, and archegonia, female reproductive organ. Then of course growing point, this is, and apical notch, there is a notch-like structure, there is a cushioning tissue, lateral margin and posterior margin. And if you see, this heart-shaped structure is so important because of the presence of male and female reproductive organs. So prothallus requires cool, damp, shady places to grow. Also, it needs water for fertilization. So the spread of pteridophytes is limited and restricted to narrow geographical regions. The gametophytes, namely prothallus, bear male and female sex organs called antheridia and archegonia respectively. Now, continuing with the reproduction, water is needed for transfer of antherozoids, that is male gametes, from antheridia to the mouth of archegonia. That is the reason why still pteridophytes depend upon water. So you can see the presence of antheridia, archegonia and prothallus, and then the sperm and egg. So fusion of that will be forming zygote, embryo, and development of the sporophyte. And the sporophyte will have microphylls. Over the microphylls, sori will be there, and the sori will have sporangium. Sporangium will undergo meiosis. The spore mother cells will form spores, and the spores will start growing. And this will become prothallus. So sporophyte giving rise to gametophyte, gametophyte giving rise to sporophyte, alternation of generation. So antherozoid fuses with the egg in the archegonium to form zygote. Zygote develops to a multicellular, well-differentiated sporophyte. So this is alternation of generation. Most of the pteridophytes produce similar kinds of spores. Like we said, isogamous. Here, homosporous, because spores, homosporous plants. Others produce two kinds of spores, that is macro, that is mega, and microspores. They are heterosporous. Example, selaginella, salvinia. So two types, microspore and megaspore. You can see in selaginella, microspore and macrospore. So this is microspore and this is macrospore or megaspore. And the megaspores and microspores germinate and give rise to female and male gametophytes respectively. So the female gametophytes are retained on the parent sporophytes for variable periods. So there is a dependency on the sporophyte. Within female gametophytes, zygotes develop into young embryos. This event is a precursor to seed habitat. This is evolutionary trend. This is giving a clue that in future seeds are going to be formed. It is considered as an important step in evolution. You can see here, Selaginella cone is heterosporous and Lycopodium cone homosporous. Similar type of spores, different types of spores. And further, we can see here the leaf megasporophyll and microsporophyll, adult sporophyte, presence of sorus. Sorus will have immature sporangium, sporangial tissue will be there. Each spore mother cell will undergo meiosis, form functional spore. The spore will start germinating into young gametophyte with rhizoids, and in future it is going to develop into a prothallus. And prothallus is very, very important because of the presence of Antheridium and Archegonium. Antheridium will produce sperm, Archegonium will produce egg. So fusion of sperm and egg results in formation of zygote. This we call it as fertilization. And the zygote will give rise to young embryo. Young embryo will further continue and develop into a sporophyte. So we say alternation of generation. So the entire life cycle of pteridophyte is getting completed with alternation of two phases. Two generations are altering each other. Gametophyte, sporophyte. So classification, pteridophytes are classified into 4 classes. They are called Coelopsida, example Coelotum, Lycopsida, example Selaginella and Lycopodium, Spinapsida, Equistium, and Pteropsida, Diopterus, Adiantum, Pteris. This is how the pteridophytes are classified into 4 classes. And the development of zygotes into young embryos in case of heterosporous ones takes place within female gametophyte. This event is, as I said, precursor for development, and this gives a clue, a sign that in future seed is going to be formed. This is a evolutionary trend. So in this